back with another episode of The Real Podcast of Dallas. Did y'all hear that? The Real Podcast of Dallas. The little podcast that could. The little podcast that's making waves. They're listening to us everywhere. Are you lonely? Are you feeling lonely? Do you feel sad? Turn us on. We'll keep you company. Are there bullies in your life? We got a message for you. We'll take care of them for you. Just give us their number and their information. And I'm kidding. So we're back with another episode of The Real Podcast of Dallas. Maria and Cindy. Look at us.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be back.
Yes. And how can they listen to the podcast, Maria?
The easiest way is just to do a Google search, The Real Podcast of Dallas, and that will give you access to our Facebook account. The Facebook account has access to each and every podcast that we have recorded so far. All you have to go is go in and click on, a topic that calls your attention, and you will it'll direct you to start listening to that specific podcast. But we are also on iHeartRadio. We are on Google Podcast. We are on YouTube. So when you do the Google search, it will also give you access through our YouTube.
Yes. That's how you can get a hold of us. So if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling sad, if things aren't going your way, tune in. We'll help you out. That's what we were made for. So today we have a good program. They're all good, right, Maria?
They are all.
What do you think, Cindy? You think they're all good?
Most of them.
Cindy's a critic. They're all good. What's your favorite episode, Cindy? Which one's your favorite podcast?
I know her least favorite.
Well, I like any of them where we're playing music is good.
Okay.
Any of them where we were laughing.
So After the Storm?
I liked that one a lot.
Yeah, After the Storm was good.
Then I did like the self-esteem.
Self-esteem is good. Affirmations were good.
Yeah.
See, I like all of them.
I need to listen. You do. I need to.
I'm a fan of The Real Podcast of Dallas.
I'm a fan too.
Yes.
I think the only one that I would say I did not like was like our very, very first one.
That one's one of my favorite ones because that's the one that got us out of the shell. Mainly Maria.
Yeah, I want to tell people start in December and then.
Yeah, you always do.
I
say listen to all of them and listen to the growth of this little podcast.
But I wish somebody would give us feedback because it's I was re-listening to Self-Esteem and I thought, we did too much chit-chat and I would have liked, if I were listening to, which I'll just get on to the topic. But I don't know how that is for everybody else, so I'd like to hear their feedback.
So give us feedback.
Give us feedback. I think, when we do have our small conversations at the beginning, it gives people a little bit of who we are. Because I was talking to Leo about this earlier today. I'm I just think people like to know, who we are, our family and stuff like that.
But I don't want them to think that those people are boring. I wish they would talk about self-esteem.
So if you're listening, you probably were told by somebody, hey, there's a podcast that you might be interested in.
Because there's a lot of stuff we can't talk about because, it's private information or we just really can't. It's outside of the boundaries of what we're permitted to talk about.
Really? I wasn't aware of I didn't get that memo.
Yes, there's boundaries, but, we talk anyway. Mm-hmm. But we always follow, it's in the vault. What we say here stays here.
Right.
So
I'm safe.
I'm trusting that what I tell Maria or Leo is in the vault.
I see that kind of stuff. Yes.
And as soon as they violate that trust, then that's
the
it.
circle of trust is gone.
Yeah.
That is very true.
Yes.
But I will tell you, there's one of life's lessons is there's no such thing as a secret.
Ooh.
That is so true. There's no secret.
Don't tell Victoria that. Did you hear that? Did you see what I did?
Yes. There's no secret with Victoria's Secret.
Victoria, no secret.
Oh, Victoria, I guess.
Yeah, you get that, huh? Victoria's Secret.
No, I mean, I always think, like, I could write a book of just simple life lessons. Like, people who say never, they always do.
Right.
There is no such thing as a secret.
Well, I always tell, like, my kids, for example, like, I always tell them, like, don't think you can hide information. Because, you know, the truth always comes out. You can try and say, no, Mom, this did not happen. Or, well, it did not happen that way. But then the truth always comes out. So you always have to be aware of that.
Right.
So there's no such a thing as secrets. There's no such a thing of, you know,
I'm going to start
hiding information. Yes, Cindy, you have to.
You don't know what you don't know. People will always let you down. We're humans, so we're going to do that.
Yes.
I have a lot of other ones. Comment.
Let
us know some of your
just
little
specifically
life
with Cindy's, what do we call them? Cindy's
words of wisdom.
Words of wisdom.
Yes.
But I mean, everybody has them, so I would love for you to comment. Like, what's
Cindy's looking for comments. Everybody,
some of them? No, you know, like, what are some of the things that you live by? Because I live by a lot of those things.
Yes.
And it's good to know those things.
So, if somebody gave you negative feedback, what would you do?
Well, first I would hang my head in shame.
Really?
And then I would and then I would do what I always do.
Cindy, that is a little dumb podcast that you're on.
I know. But then I would do what I always do. And, you know, I've been blessed, or I don't know if it was me, myself, that has done it, but I have the ability to talk myself back up. Because I have been knocked down before. And so I have to do a lot of self-talk and say, you know what? You might have been the worst that time, but you're not always the worst. And there's a lot you do really, really well. And, you know, we're not our mistakes and we're not our past.
Oh, I like that.
Those are some other little things that could go in my book.
Cindyisms.
Cindyisms. But, I have that. And my daughter has that. And, you know, sometimes you have to do a lot more self-talk than at other times, but you know what? Bounce back. Bounce back. Keep going.
Because that's what it's about. It's about coming back. It's about resiliency.
Absolutely.
Resiliency.
Absolutely.
So our topic, we're trying to discuss. What are we going to talk about? And we thought boundaries. Yes. We've mentioned boundaries in the past podcast because that's a big thing. So let's specifically just kind of get into it and talk about boundaries. So, when we think of boundaries, what comes to your minds when you think of boundaries?
Oh, I wrote down a whole bunch of things.
Oh, Cindy's prepared.
I did.
I didn't write anything down. You either, Maria.
Blood is thicker than water.
Blood is thicker than water. Yes.
Y'all know what that means?
Yes, it means that blood is thicker than water. That water's... Tell us.
You know, it's like saying, you know, I can insult my mother, but you can't.
Ooh.
No, I'm not going to insult my mother. I'm not. But if you're not blood, then you can't talk about another person's kin.
Oh.
Even if they talk bad about them. Like if Maria talks about, you know, her dog all day long... It's not for me to insult her dog. No, but seriously, if she talked about...
Or she was to say, oh, my kids are just lazy.
Yeah, if she was talking about...
And then you come in and you're like, you're lazy kids. And you're like, oh, don't you talk about my kids.
Yeah, like she could talk about her mom. She could talk about her dad. She can talk about her kids. My mama. And she could talk negative about them. But
you can't.
A boundary, you need to know this. I cannot talk about them. Because then she'd be like, who does she think she is?
I think that's a great way to start this, Cindy. A segue, as they say.
It is, and it's a great advice for relationships. Like, you know, I have gone too far with, you know, my husband, you know, with his parents. Like, and I was doing it out of, like, a defense, a protective, like, I want to protect you. How dare they did these things to you? But... those are his parents, and it's not for me to talk about those things. And so, I had to learn a lesson. Like, okay, I don't go there.
Which can be confusing. It can be a mixed message sent that I'm bringing you in, I trust you, and I'm telling you something intimate, something that's happened in my family, to vent. Maybe it's something deep, something very emotional, and I'm venting to you, and then because you love me, you're feeling that.
Exactly.
And you want to protect me. So you think that, hey, he shared something, I got to protect him. So now you say, well, that's why your mother smells like, and you're like, oh no, that's my mom. Yeah.
Yeah. Or how dare your father do that to you, and blah, 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 blah. And then, his hair stands up on it, and he's like, don't talk about my dad. I'm just like, okay,
Right.
okay.
Oh, I like that. What do you think, Maria?
I agree with
Very
everything you guys are
right?
saying. Yes, because you do have to be careful, especially with your own family.
Yeah.
You have to watch those boundaries. You have to set boundaries for yourself and your family, and you have to respect other people's boundaries as well.
It's funny because, I can get frustrated with my daughter because really I'm like, how did you not see that and clean that when I asked you to, wipe the table or whatever? How did you not see all these food stains, whatever? But if my husband starts, barking at her, and then here comes mama to the rescue, like, don't you let my daughter,
How dare you leave my daughter
You
alone?
can be like, Mama Bear, woo.
don't raise your voice at her.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Leave your dad there. Yes, and that's what happens. And I think in relationships, it happens a lot where there's those mixed messages sent, and it's just a protective thing. And so you want to protect the person from their siblings or their parents, and then you get in there to protect them, and they're like, whoa, wait a second, that's
Right.
my family. Oh, it's your family, but never mind.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
I can be very confused. See, growing up, kids, is difficult. Those things that nobody explains. And then you step into the trap, and you're like, uh-oh, I didn't realize that.
That's why chapter 2 is supposed to be better, and I'm on chapter 2. So you spend the first,
right.
part of your life, learning all this in a painful way.
Right.
And then you're like, oh,
I got it.
Light bulb,
That's what it
I
is.
got it. Okay.
Yes. Oh,
Here's another little piece of information for me to file away and not
Right.
step in that hole again,
oh, yes. So if you're listening to the Real Podcast of Dallas, we're discussing boundaries, which is one of my favorite topics. Anytime I talk to clients, and I know they get sick of it because I'm always boundaries. Solution is always boundaries, because they work. And they work at all levels. They work on the job. They work in intimate relationships. They work with the kids. They work even with people you don't know. They work.
Right.
And what you were talking about was more of a emotional boundary.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a lot of emotional.
There's emotional, spiritual, physical.
Oh, definitely.
Physical boundaries, which a lot of kids, it's a learning experience. I've seen kids get in trouble because they lack those physical boundaries. But again, mixed messages, where you're playing a game and you get, touch here, touch there, and then touch too low, and then, now I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Just like in dodgeball, you always, end up hitting above the neck and somebody gets hurt.
Yeah.
Or with the slap boxing that you see a lot with
Yeah.
teenagers.
Open chest. Back in the day, we had open chest.
Right.
That hurt.
Yes. Yes.
You never wanted to be the one receiving the open chest. Yes.
Another relationship boundary, I was thinking, I know with my husband, and he's the love of my life. I adore my husband. But that doesn't mean, you don't have your little conflicts and spats